We're going to talk today about Office 365. A lot of this content will have come from all of our conversations with our customers as we're talking about the idea of Office 365 and how do we get started with it, what are the tasks we need to do. So we'll go through a lot of this information that is generated from all of the questions that we've been getting over the last couple of years. So hopefully we can clear some things up for you and help you find some easier approaches to providing Office in your enterprises. So to start out with, I just want to do some introductions. SoftwareOne is a licensing solution provider with Microsoft. We have been doing this for quite a long time. I've been in business for over 25 years. In 83 countries, I think the last count was, and just really making headway with providing licensing solutions. So we don't always think about licensing solutions as something that's fun to talk about or even something that we have fun doing at work. But when we consider the idea that there might be ways to make an IT shop more efficient, SoftwareOne gets in there and helps you design a licensing strategy or a portfolio strategy, if you will, and really focuses on giving you the best bang for your buck when it comes to the technology that you're purchasing. One of the departments here at SoftwareOne is the Technology Services team, which I'm a member of. We've been growing quickly over the last 3 years just in the U.S. So worldwide, I believe we're up to around 200 employees just in the Technology Services team. And with Microsoft or with SoftwareOne's growth being over 40% year over year for the last 8 years, this team's reflecting that and just growing leaps and bounds. So the agenda for today, we're going to go through the Office 365 product, how to look at it and buy it and deploy it. So, and then we're going to answer a lot of questions along the way. If you have any questions that pop up, you can get on the console and add a question to the Q&A, but we will address those at the end. So please feel free to put them in there, and we'll catch up to them at the end. So let's get started. Office 365 is, we have this conversation a lot with our customers, and we always find that there are some misconceptions as to what it is. And the best way for me to describe it is it's not a different set of delivery methods of the Office functionality that we all know of. It's an additional set to the old ways that we do this. So, when we're concerned about giving up control of the delivery methods, whether it's putting it into a default image that we deploy to all of our new provision devices, or it's distributing it through the software distribution package, none of that goes away with Office 365. There may be some extra steps or some changes that you have to make to your infrastructure to continue to offer Office that way. But overall, it's the same package, it's the same functionality set, and they're the same delivery methods. However, what Office 365 gives us is additional ways to deliver it. So if, in case a lot of you haven't seen the Microsoft demo where they do an install of Office 365, it comes in real quick. The demo is to show that it's up and running in 2 minutes, and that's always a lot of fun. But and so far I've seen it work every time. I've even done it a couple times myself, and it worked both times. So when we talk about what is Office 365, how do we approach it? Why are we looking at it? Usually I'll have the conversation where the customer comes in and says, we don't want to talk about Office 365 because we want to keep everything on premise. Well, as you'll see through this presentation, you can do an Office 365 deployment and keep everything on premise. The other really cool thing about Office 365 is the way that you can buy it. So In the past, in the IT shop, we've had, decisions to make, and there was only actually one, and that was, does the user need access or not? And so for most of our users that were power users, if you will, we would get the Office Pro Plus package, and then for the non-power users, we would get the Office Standard package that didn't have access. Well, with Office 365, we have a much, much larger option set. So we can add a la carte products. We can subscribe to one piece of it. We can just get the apps, and we're going to go through this here shortly. But when you consider Office 365, consider that you can create, even on the big contracts, you can create user profiles without amendments anymore. There's no line of business exceptions when it comes to Office 365, and mix and match how you subscribe each user to it. We don't really think about doing a business requirement analysis for our Office package, right? I mean, for years, that's just a given part of doing business. Do we need Office or not? Does a person need to actually get on a computer or not? It's almost the same question. Well, today, not just because of all the competition that's out there, but because business is changing and changing the way that they want to do business. So we're trying to squeeze every dollar out of every investment that we make in IT. And so Microsoft's come up with the ability for us to mix and match and really whittle down what we offer to each individual user. We also have to consider that the apps that come in on Office 365 are locally deployed apps, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but I still get the comment from customers that say we don't want to do this because the apps are, I don't want to use web browser presented apps. So we'll pass on this one. Well, that's not the case. The apps are local. They are they're fully functional. There's no lightweight feel about it. It has all of the functions that the MSI installed app that Office 2013 has in it as well. So when we consider what Office 365 is, when it comes to the actual apps, it gives us the ability to deploy the actual full functioning application locally that doesn't require access to the internet all the time. There is a requirement for internet access, and we'll go over that here in a second, but there's no need for you to be connected all the time. So when I'm on the airplane and I don't actually buy internet access, I still have my functioning Office apps. So let's take a look at how Microsoft has built Office, and all those things I just said about the ability to mix and match and to only buy the functionality that you really need is strictly because of the way that they've built it. And this is kind of what it looks like from a hierarchical perspective. When we look at like Exchange, the SharePoint functionality, the link functionality, they've created different plans that somewhat match the on-premise subscription or the on-premise licensing. So with Exchange, for example, you have Exchange Online Plan 1 and Online Plan 2. With the Online Plan 1, it's typically associated with the standard functionality of Exchange, and in that I'm saying the standard CAL functionality. With Online Plan 2, you're looking at the Enterprise CAL functionality in an online environment. So when you consider a bundle, so we've all done Core CALs and we've done Enterprise CALs and we've done Enterprise Agreements. When you look at the bundle that is Office 365, what they've done is they've packaged these components into it. The great thing is if you just need some users to use Exchange Online Plan 1, for example, that's all you have to subscribe to. If the majority of my users are using E3 or E1, and we're going to get into what those are here in a second, then I don't have to put everybody on those subscriptions. I can use SharePoint Online Plan 1 for everybody, and then just do everything else a la carte too. The Plan 1 and Plan 2s you see here are traditionally associated with what I just said, the standard and enterprise CALs. With the other products, the Yammer Basic and Yammer Enterprise, the Enterprise has the ability to do an administration feature where you can add people and administrate the conversations, and it has a more enterprise type, business type feel. OneDrive for Business comes with everybody or with everything. And then you have, SharePoint and some of the add-ons that are built onto SharePoint, like the project, the Visio, the Power BI, and some of that stuff. So we'll get more into that here in a little bit, but I wanted you to see how all of these components are out there and how you can buy them a la carte and mix and match with your full Office 365 deployment plan. So this next slide is very tough to read, and I apologize. It's more here for further reference. But once this thing's done, we can send these out. But I wanted you to see the graphical representation of where everything is. One of the big things that popped out on this one is that when you purchase an Enterprise E3 or E1 plan, they both come with Link Online Plan 2. So you could see, the subscription at the top, and then the application or the service that's provided from the left with each subscription. Link Online Plan 2, again, is commonly associated with the Link Enterprise features, where we're doing conference calls and calling or doing web calls across the internet as well, so going outside of your organization. That's all baked into both E1 or all three, E1, E3, and E4 plans. So it's that was very exciting when we learned that. So this is, again, for future reference for you guys. So when we decide, okay, we're going to do something with Office 365, whether it's whether we're keeping an on-premise strategy or we're going to actually go into the cloud with some of it, maybe go half in the cloud, so some of my Exchange users will still be on site, or some will be, and then some will be in the cloud. The first things we have to do is consider identity. When we've talked about identity in the IT shop for years. I've actually worked on 3 identity management projects, and so this is something that traditionally, more than Active Directory, has been considered an add-on or a leisure, if you will, something that most companies didn't necessarily need, but knew it was out there. Well, now when we're talking about going to the cloud, we need to revisit this and consider what kind of approach are we going to do for this? What kind of, I call it warm fuzzies. And the reason why I say that is, not everybody's feeling great about moving either the username or the username and the password out to the cloud. So here I want to talk real quick about how is that done and what are the different approaches. So when you connect or create an Office 365 tenant, you create this tenant and it comes with its own Active Directory built in. You don't get to access it like you do your on-premise Active Directory, but you see through the Office 365 portal the usernames and their user accounts. When you do that, and we've got another slide for this, but that's where you go in and assign licenses to it. It's created as its own Office 365 identity. Now the decision is, number one, do we just keep that one identity? So do we give our users this on Microsoft.com login account, whatever the username you pick is for that, and the password that stays out in Office 365, or do we connect it to our own corporate Active Directory? Well, there's various levels of connecting it to your own Active Directory. And so I'm going to go through these real quick. The first one is the DirSync password sync process, and actually SoftwareOne provides a no cost to the customer service, where we will do this for you. But what happens is we create infrastructure, and it can be virtual, that that replicates your identities out of your Active Directory into the Active Directory that's in Office 365, so into Office 365. It also replicates, in this case, with the password sync. That's another product that you turn on. It also replicates your hashed passwords out into their Active Directory. It's very similar to federating and sending over passwords to other Active Directories in your own organization. The security is the same as if it was two forests in your own organization. So it's highly secure, but then your password actually does live out in the Office 365 tenant. So what happens when you do an authentication with this is, for example, when let's say you're at home and you decide you need to log into anything or a product that is Office 365, you go in, it challenges you for credentials, and if you're on a domain joined, it'll take your credentials off your machine and goes out to Office 365, and it looks to see where the authentication authority is. Those are hard words to put together. So you consider the Office 365 looks to see where you've listed your authentication authority, and if you're using the StirSync password sync, it stays with Office 365. So it then will authenticate that username and password and return the response, whether it's granted or denied. The next level of DirSync is adding ADFS. So now I'm going to disable the password sync, and I'm going to set up another server that I'm going to install the ADFS infrastructure on. And so when I do that, I'm still replicating my usernames out to Office 365. But what I've told Office 365 now with this ADFS environment is my own environment is going to be the authentication authority. So what happens is you're at home, you decide to log into whatever it is you're logging into. That request goes out to Office 365. They do the lookup, who's the authority here, and it sees that the customer's infrastructure is the authority. So it then sends the request to the ADFS proxy server, which then processes it to one of your own domain controllers in your data center and does the authentication there. And then it takes that same path back to give the access or denied, the granted or denied response. That is a common architecture. Actually, both of those are very common. The DirSync password sync is more common than I expected. I've always had reservations about cloud. Of course, now I don't because I've seen so much of this one. But with the ADFS infrastructure, we had a lot of customers that started to adopt it, and then as they did, we realized there were a couple of single points of failure in that architecture. So the next step is to add a little bit of high availability, and you could do this in a couple ways. The first way is to set up the ADFS infrastructure with the DirSync servers at two different locations. So if you have two different data centers and both data centers have their own access to the internet, you could set up the infrastructure for ADFS that is aware of each other and allow that to be your passive failover, if you will, for availability. The problem you're solving here is if you just do DirSync ADFS at one data center, when or if you lose connection from the internet, you can no longer authenticate into your environment in Office 365. And if you're using email, Exchange Online, you're no longer able to get to your email. So if you add a little bit of high availability to it, using two data centers, you've accomplished you've overcome that single point of failure. And we've got several customers that are doing that. For those customers who did not have two data centers, we started looking at adding a tenant within Azure. So the cool thing about Azure, and I know that we're going to have several webinars on this, but for me, one of the most exciting parts about Azure is the ability to set up the site-to-site VPN and create an Azure tenant in an Azure environment that looks as if I just set up another data center. It looks like it acts like it to the end users. They might be able to get, or they might be accessing resources that you put in there from their desk and from their house. There's just so many opportunities there. One of those is to actually put in your tenant with a site-to-site VPN, a domain controller. So you can spin up a virtual machine up there, promote it to be a domain controller, and have it connect to your home office, wherever you're connecting to it, your own data center. And then you can spin up the other infrastructure required to do the ADFS stack, so your DirSync server and your ADFS server. And then the authentication piece would, from Office 365, would then go to your Azure tenant and authenticate there. We are seeing a lot of customers that are doing this as well, especially the ones who have decided to get out of the data center business. And you know, a lot of people would think that that's very, very rare. I'd say we're away from the rare area. It's probably closer to not too common. But I see, at least in every territory, I've seen 2 or 3 customers that are headed full force that way. So this would be a good opportunity for them to set up their infrastructure in Azure and connect their Office 365 environment to it. And it's, you know, back when we were introducing virtualization, you know, and I was a chief architect at the time, we had, you know, the fear of running a production virtual machine. and coincidentally, my first production virtual machine was a domain controller. So this is just the same thing, and it's working for a lot of our customers. Then we have the next step, which is the DirSync Azure AD Premium, and that's part of the EMS bundle, the Enterprise Mobility Suite. What Azure Premium gives you is the same thing ADFS does, only it gives you more identity management solutions. So you have now the forefront functionality, if you will, in the cloud. You have the ability to set up a self-service portal for your customer or your users to go in and have their passwords changed themselves, you know, using challenge questions or security questions, or a couple other things you can do. It gives you multi-factor authentication. So MFA is a new technology that is really being used by a lot of customers, and I'm finding that a lot of our customers are already using that in their own data centers. So you can deploy it internally on premise, or you can use the one that's available through Azure AD Premium. When you do that, you connect your AD to Azure AD Premium, and then you get additional features like the identity management components and the self-service portal and some of the other security components as well. If you need to do more than that, then you have options like third-party identity management solutions. Now, if you're a customer who has an identity management solution already deployed, you know, if you're doing the CA identity management, Oracle, you know, IBM, Tivoli, or BMC, you know, a lot of these ITSM companies already provide cloud-based identity management. So definitely, if you're already using identity management solution in-house, you would want to look to see if they have the SAML component, which is, for lack of a better term, it's the security version of XML. But it's the security protocol that's being used across the internet that allows you to authenticate not just with, for example, Office 365, but with all the other cloud-based products. So Salesforce.com, Workday, and Facebook, Twitter, they all are SAML compliant. And so, and I laugh because, you know, they could have business uses for that other than our marketing teams is kind of funny, because just years ago we were trying to block all that stuff. Now we're integrating them into our environment. Those companies provide good solutions for it. And when I talk to customers that are new to identity management, especially if they're considering cloud, then we start talking about companies like Centrify, Okta, Ping. The one thing that I want to mention here about Centrify that I'm very sensitive to for my IT shops is the fact that Centrify goes above and beyond all the rest, and they have a very clean, very nice audit component. So one of the things that cause companies what I call to be four-wall phobiaed, you know, scared to let anything leave their four walls of their data center, is the ability to not just control what's out there and have security over it, but to be able to prove that they're controlling what's out there, and to be able to pass some type of audit that, I need to show what all of my users are doing in the cloud. Well, guess what? Centrify does that. They've created an interface that allows you to go in and actually create an audit report for all of your cloud usage for all of your users. And when we talk about being compliant, I've explained to a lot of my buddies that compliance to an IT director means passing an audit. Really, that's all it is. If I can pass the compliance audit, I'm good to go. So Centrify has a component that does a great job doing that, and is just really taken off just simply because of that feature set. So that's identity management. Those are that's the typical conversation that we have with a customer who's considering Office 365. You need to figure out where your level of comfort is. Do you mind the passwords being sent to the internet, or do you want to keep them home in the data center? And then how much features or functionality do you need out of your identity management solution? So moving on, the business strategy for delivering only the functionality needed. This is something I mentioned earlier. Creating user profiles. This is something that is really taking off simply because we've wanted to do it for years. We've been doing it inside our own environments, creating different profiles, creating different terminal service profiles, creating different workstation packages and things like that. So now with Office 365, it's so much easier. Delivering just email or delivering just SharePoint. How many scenarios are out there where we have, for example, one of the companies I worked for is a regional grocery chain here in Texas, and we have a lot of users that did not need an email account but needed to get into SharePoint. So we couldn't just extend the full core account to everybody because that was overkill. All they needed was a Windows Server account and a SharePoint account. We didn't want to include the Exchange account and all the rest of the stuff for 76,000 users. So now we could purchase just the SharePoint Online subscription. And one of the other cool things about that is when you do that, you're also purchasing the entitlement to connect to an on-premise deployment of the same product. So when I get a SharePoint Online subscription, I also I am also entitled to connecting to an on-premise SharePoint environment. Wow, that was tough to say. And so, and all of the products on Office 365 are the same way. So you have the ability to get Exchange Online and then connect to your on-premise Exchange server. It gives us the ability to keep our licensing simple. It also gives us the ability to get more value out of the licenses that we're buying or subscribing to. And most of all, it gives us the flexibility not to just get what we need, but to consume it the way we want to consume it. When I'm talking about new technologies with my customers, I love the ones that give me options to stay the same way I am today and slowly move into the new functionality that new technology offers. Office 365 is definitely one of those products. So let's get into some of the other components of this. Data management in Office 365. We've been doing data management in our own data centers for years, and obviously Microsoft has been providing some of the solutions that we're doing that with. They've taken not just the technology that we're using, but they've also taken some of the things that we've done in our data centers and replicated those to the cloud. So starting out with OneDrive for Business. If you've used any of the older versions of this, whether it was Groove or the SharePoint desktop or any of the other replicative technologies that allow you to keep files locally and automatically replicate them to a network file share of some type, OneDrive for Business is the newest iteration of that, and it is fantastic. So the OneDrive itself, you have the ability to use that as a personal public store. It's It's full featured. It's just I use it a ton and share a lot of documents with my coworkers with it. But what that caused, that problem that caused, was OneDrive was not administrated by anybody. So if a corporation started using or advocating the use of OneDrive, they were losing access to any documents or any corporate intellectual property that was going into the OneDrive. So they created the OneDrive for Business. OneDrive for Business is part of SharePoint. So when you subscribe to it, you're going to see some SharePoint components and licensing components pop up in your interface. And that's simply because it's built on the SharePoint technology. So when you think about how you store your files, your personal files at work, typically we'll have a network file share. We'll keep it on our laptop, for example, just because we need to make sure we have access to it, when we're out of the office, or don't have a way to VPN in to get it. OneDrive for Business has created a technology that solves all of those problems. So on your SharePoint on-premise, you have OneDrive for Business, which now replicates to my desktop in a folder. And so instead of having the P drive or the H drive or whatever drive you guys are using, you have the OneDrive for Business icon in your Windows Explorer. Again, this is another technology that I love simply because it allows my users to continue saving files on a folder in their Windows Explorer, but then they're getting the benefits of the replication pieces that are moving around in the network. So when I'm looking at an on-premise SharePoint and a OneDrive for Business, you go to your OneDrive for Business site that's part of the the My Site from SharePoint, and you have the ability to download and load and install the application, the OneDrive for Business application, which now simply creates a folder in your Windows Explorer window, where we keep all of our folders and have been for years. When you go to OneDrive for Business Online or subscribe to it, and this is one that you can subscribe to individually, you have the ability to open that OneDrive for Business online through your Windows Explorer as well. It's the same thing. You're actually keeping local copies of these items, these documents, and they are replicating in the background to your OneDrive for Business. A couple of things about that creates a really cool way to share your documents, and it also cured one of the problems we had with the older SharePoint versions, which was the nested hierarchical access, the ACLs. I don't know if you guys have ever done a SharePoint upgrade or a migration, but when you were sharing documents at various levels of your folder sets, you needed to have everybody that had access to a certain folder had to have access to every folder above it. OneDrive for Business has cured that. It's simply right-click, share, and they get a direct path to it, and then their credentials are checked. So it's a pretty neat way to solve that problem. We also have the data loss prevention functionality in some of the SKUs that are available for Office 365, and then you can get Azure Rights Management Services and Office 365 Rights Management Services. With the Rights Management Services, it's the protection that you use to lock down documents that are sensitive. When on site, we will frequently do not demos but discovery sessions where we let users get on a laptop and play with the Office 365 technology on a laptop. And one of the games that we play is who can beat Rights Management Services. And the goal is to copy off a document that's protected under RMS and get it out of the system. The person who wins is the person who usually takes out a phone and takes a picture of the document on the screen. It's really cool how they do that, and by doing that game, we've had so many different unique ways of trying to break this system that it's been a lot of fun. But in the end, it's the same thing. The person who takes the picture wins. We've had people try to get to documents through link sessions, for example, desktop sharing sessions, and RMS is still aware and knows whether you have access to it or not and won't show it. It blacks out any documents you don't have access to on somebody else's machine. So, data management is strong, the security is strong, and they're just getting better by the day. I've put two pictures here. One is the OneDrive for Business Online, so the browser view of it, and then the Windows Explorer view. It's the same set of folders. They're replicating to each other, and it happens very seamlessly. So moving on, another question that we always get is the security and trust question. And if you guys have been Microsoft customers for a long time, and pretty much all of us have and will always be, we've talked about, I'm sure you've talked about the Trust Center for whatever product you were dealing with. The security within Office 365, there's a couple of things you need to associate with it. Number one, when you're talking about security, consider the fact that you're securing your own environment. You've got a security chief and a security team maybe, or somebody's doing a couple of things, and security is one of them. But the things that they do to secure your environment are the exact same things that Microsoft's doing. Now, as you can imagine, Microsoft's been hammered, and everybody talks about how secure they are simply because they've been the focus of hackers for years. But the thing that I had to resolve in my own head is they've got a security team just like I do, and they're doing the same things just like I am, only they have a lot more need for security than I did. So they're doing the best-in-class security. They're doing their IT shop-based security things. But then they're doing a lot more testing, a lot more reviews of their own security. They do the penetration testing, the security audits, and then on top of that, they have to prove their compliancy with the same regulations that we have to prove compliancy with. This is one of the things that I typically will find a customer secretly saying, no, we're not going to do Office 365 because we have to be compliant with fill in the blank, whether it's SOX or HIPAA or FSMA or FDA. With Microsoft's Office 365, they have the ability to accommodate those security requirements. They also have the additional legal hold and e-discovery components that most companies that have a general counsel need. The funny thing about this is within the E3 component, the E3 subscription, you also get a pre-created e-discovery site within the SharePoint environment. So it's an application within Office 365 that allows you to go in and create a case, an e-discovery case. So you can control the legal hold from there. You can create a keyword search and go find all the documents that are relevant to whatever the case is. The greatest part about this, and if you've ever done a legal hold or been the admin that was responsible for the e-discovery, you're going to get really excited about this because there's a new role in the environment called the Discovery Manager, or the Discovery Admin. You can assign a paralegal or an attorney the role of Discovery Admin, and they have the ability to go into this e-discovery site, create a case, create the keyword search, and fire it off, and then come back and go through the documents that it found. What they don't have the ability to do with that role is to just peruse anybody's mailbox or SharePoint environment, OneDrive, whatever. They have to do this case and pull these documents out and then go through them to see if they're relevant to their case. That means that you don't need an IT guy to do that. And that, to me, that was unbelievably exciting just because I've lost 60 days before as an admin to doing something like that. So when it comes to security, understand that they're in the same game everybody else is. They're trying to secure their data center just like we do, only they have way more resources because they are a bigger target than most of us. So, this is a conversation that we can have. We can also discuss how you can meet your either your HIPAA audit or your FSMA audit or your SOX audit when you use Office 365. So moving on, getting started. One of the things that is cause for concern is when we create a tenant. So if you're new to it, it's pretty easy. I mean, anybody who's researched Office 365 has seen the comparison of the different the different subscriptions, and then at the bottom it just says buy now. So a couple of ways that you can buy Office 365 is through the portal, so online. Another way is to add it to your EA and or another contract that you might be getting through Microsoft. When you do that, we've got a lot of customers that have trial tenants, for example, or have set it up to just kind of kick the tires, and then maybe they decide to move it to an EA. And so, we have a lot of questions that come in. Okay, I've got my pilot, if you will, online. I need to move it to my EA tenant. How do I do that? Do I have to migrate? Do I have to recreate? And the answer is no. First of all, we can definitely help you with that. When you do that, the key to moving or identifying your tenant or all your users as part of whatever tenant you want is the admin email. So when we create the tenant, if we create it to an EA, we'll put a particular email in there, and when you go into your tenant, that's the email that you're going to see all of those licenses show up under. So, when you have a trial tenant and you want to move it to an EA to get deeper discounts, just let us know. We'll walk you through the process. But rest assured, it's a very easy process. It's a process that you have to go through. It's more paperwork than anything. There's not any technical concerns here. And even if you're already set up with your ADFS or your DirSync or whatever, that's all going to stay as well. So don't be afraid to ask us about a tenant you might already have or how to create that tenant. Assigning licenses, this is another thing that we discuss a lot that is a relief to a lot of people. So I've got a picture here of what the console looks like as far as the user and how their licenses are assigned. As you can see, there's checkbox for everything here. Now, if I had a tenant that had both E1 and E3 licenses reserved for it, those checkboxes would all be there, and I would be able to uncheck the E3 and check the E1, and that is a migration. So, everybody, I've had this question a lot. If I'm on E1 and I want to go to E3, how tough is it? Well, it's literally a checkbox. And then once you have this checkbox assigned to that user, they now have all that functionality or access to that functionality. Because of this, when you sign up for a la carte, for example, if I wanted to just do that Power BI, I might see some SharePoint checkboxes as well to enable me to get to that Power BI. When we sign up for, let's say, Exchange Online, you're going to see an Office 365 console, just like this. And a lot of our customers get concerned, wait, I didn't sign up for 365, I didn't pay for it, did I? And the answer is no, but the console's still the same. The way that Microsoft's architected this environment is ingenious, and it allows you to set up that tenant once, connect your AD once, and then you can turn on, light up, turn off features at will after that. And it's all done through these license assignments. The deployment methods. We mentioned this earlier. The deployment methods, again, are additional sets. So I still can run Office 365 deployments through my System Center server. I could still embed it in my default image when I provision a new device for my end users. I can also install Office 365 on a terminal server or a remote desktop server or a Citrix server. Or even a non-persistent, VDI environment. I have the ability to deploy it that way, and the terminal server and VDI has another couple of steps that I have to take to configure it so that it doesn't take out all of the subscriptions, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. But the additional functionality that I have to deploying Office 365 is through the console. You can create a link and send that out via email, and each user would click on it, and then the install would start. It would authenticate them, and then the install would start. but it gives you a lot more flexibility. So one of the drivers to Office 365 is the multiple devices, right? So with Office 2013, each license was tied to an actual device. In Office 365, and this is one of the main drivers why companies are going to it, it's a per user subscription, which means that I get to install multiple devices with the local Office install with each subscription. When I'm doing that, the questions I have to answer are, okay, well, how am I going to manage those patches? Do I want to protect them? Do I want to administrate them so that I can prevent them from going on? And you have the ability to prevent the patches in Office 365 from going, whenever they come out. You can administrate that the way you administrate it today. Or do I just want to make sure that I protect the installs that are internally, and those go through my system center, and then everybody outside goes directly to Office 365? All of that's possible. It's designed to be a solution that makes our lives easier and makes it easier for all of our individual end users to get to this functionality. I have a lot of customers that are still in the mode where they want to lock down, how users use it, where they use it, and I don't want them using it at home for whatever reason, and I get those reasons. I mean, we were not a big fan of home use rights in my corporation just because, we knew that it would open us up for support tickets from home, which would never happen. But, those are the kind of discussions that we were having around these things. With Office 365, you have the ability to accommodate your end users wherever they're at, wherever they're moving, whether they need it to be local, whether they need it to be online or on a VDI environment. The deployment methods have been really refined over the last 2 years as well, so they're just getting easier by the day. So if you're one of those end users, and I was one of these architects that did not deploy, before SP1, we're past that, and we're way past that. So the deployment methods for Office 365 are very well baked, and are making it easier on administrators all over the world now. So moving on, the functionality access options, and I say it that way because it is access to the functionality. It is delivering it in different ways, just like I was saying, wherever you are. As you can see here, I've got a picture of the local install on the right, and then the browser rendered functionality on the left, and that is an editable document. And if you've used Bing or Outlook.com, you've probably seen some of those features, but the one on the right is the fully functional. It is a streamed app. The way that Office 365 is delivered is through a streamed app. And so what does that mean? It means that the Office was just compiled differently. It was compiled so that a single payload could be delivered in functional blocks, and so that it can sit on your desktop. It's not going to mess up any other installs, so you can run it in line with your other installs of Office. So if you have Office 2010 today, you can install Office 365, and they can run simultaneously on the same device. And so the best part about this is the way that the streamed apps are patched and managed are these functional blocks come down in the background, and the end user never sees it. They close the app, they open it, and now it's running the new features, or the new patched version of it, or the upgraded version of it, if you will. So this is some of the ways that they deliver it. E1 has the Office browser version. They call it the Office Web Apps, so don't call it OWA. I don't want to confuse anybody. And then the other component, the E3, has the Office 365 Pro Plus built in. So let's get into some of the back office components that make up Office 365. Exchange Online, again, you can buy it as an a la carte, online plan 1 and plan 2. To your end users, they're not going to notice a difference. So if you have if you are a customer that has users that are spread out throughout the country or throughout the world, and you're managing your Exchange servers in one location, this is the exact same thing. The end users are just going to a different data center to get their Exchange connection. From their perspective, the Exchange server moved. And I always tell customers, it's just like I just installed another Exchange server in a different data center. But now we have to consider the other components that are checkboxes on our normal standard operating procedures, and like Exchange backups. When we consider backups in Exchange Online, we have to consider two things. One is Microsoft provides their own availability and their own SLAs for protecting your data, so they're replicating it 3 times, and that is their backup, so essentially that's a backup to disk. They also have the ability to turn on archiving within their own environment. That might be considered another backup. But then we also have other options like Mimecast, for example. Mimecast has been a great partner of ours, and I've really liked to work with them because one of their strong points, and we won't get into this, is their compliance-friendly environment. So Mimecast is you could call it several things, and I actually come across customers that are using it for various reasons. It's a unified email management, but it's more commonly associated with email archiving. So I have the ability to archive my on-premise Exchange server and my cloud Exchange. I can do both at the same time, like in a hybrid configuration. And this can satisfy my backup requirement for my email because it goes into Mimecast cloud, and they have their own availability, and we're going to get into that here in just a couple seconds. They also have a process that they market that is really a migration path. So if you're considering a slow migration from your on-premise Exchange to your cloud version, Mimecast can get in there and help you do that and protect you from losing connectivity to your email. And I say that very specifically. When you use Mimecast to do your migration, you create an infrastructure that is considered business continuity, DR, and archiving. So when I lose access, or if I knock my own Exchange server down, or the mail is moving in the background, I still have access to my email in Mimecast. And we'll get into that here more in a second. Another best practice for migration is the Exchange hybrid configuration. So again, it's not exactly the same as adding another server from an admin perspective, but from an end user it is. So when I deploy Exchange Online, I have the ability to just click on a mailbox and say move out to the cloud through my admin. So it makes it real easy to move slowly out to the cloud and not cause any problems with the end users. We have a lot of features here that are listed, and we can go through this, or we can talk about them later. But as you see, the E1, which is commonly associated with standard features, has the calendaring, the OWA, but the E3 also has archiving, legal hold, e-discovery. The other thing is you have the ability to do shared mailboxes, resource mailboxes. Again, just like your on-premise Exchange is licensed, the cloud version is licensed the same way. You have to have a license to get into it. It doesn't matter how many email boxes you have. If you need more features than this, then you would go with a third-party product like Mimecast. And I'd like to invite Julian Martin on to go through what some of the things I can do above and beyond our Exchange or enterprise features within the Office 365. Julian, you there?
I am indeed. Thanks so much indeed, Ben. And
thank you.
All I want to say here is we don't compete with Microsoft. We're there for those people that need that additional functionality. Office 365 out of the box, as Ben's clearly explained, is suitable for many organizations. But Mimecast is there for those organizations, as Ben said, with continuity, for instance, that need that assurance during the migration. So quickly just go through this list here. From a availability side of things, the Microsoft solution offers 99.9 when you're fully deployed. As Ben says, we underpin that move with a 100% SLA before, during, and after the migration. With Office 365, users can delete unless you do put that legal hold or in-place hold into play. With ours, it's a immutable store from the outset, and deletion is restricted to CISO level. Access to the archive in a Microsoft sense is through a Windows platform and browser. But if you've got users who are perhaps heavy mobile users, as the younger generation definitely are, they're using Macs, for instance, or iPads. We provide that through native apps to the Mimecast archive. With Mimecast, again, you can archive both email, link, and documents held in network file drives. And Ben made a great point here on the next point as regards to backup. And with Office 365, there is no backup. And you may save data for 7 years. And you may delete in line with corporate policy after 7 years. But you must have all had the instance where the CEO comes across and says, I'd like to gain access to that file. I know you've probably deleted it, but can you find it for me? With Office 365, there isn't an option there. For us, we keep data for 99 years with a fixed cost, no charge for storage volume. There's a size limit on Office 365 of 25 meg from a file size, both sending and receiving, and indeed taken into the archive. Again, with Mimecast, one of the core, very strong selling features we've got at the moment is that the ability to send files that's 2 gigabytes in size directly from Outlook. And that's quite unique from Mimecast, complementing, obviously, the Microsoft journey. With Audit and eDiscovery, yes, there's great Audit and eDiscovery capabilities within Office 365. But again, for those people who want encrypted emails to be included within our Audit and eDiscovery, who want large file shares, as I say, those emails you're sending with 2 gigabyte files attached directly out of Outlook, we can do that full Audit and eDiscovery across those in a single unified platform. And finally, on the virus side, EOP is part of the standard set in most of the packages you've got there with Office 365. But for those people who are concerned about the spear phishing incidents with the likes of Target and Home Depot, two I know very well because I had to have my credit cards replaced at both instances, or Anthem, USPS, UPS, etc. Those spear phishing incidents that are on the rise, we offer that protection which you can use in conjunction with or without EOP. Depends, as I say, in each one of these instances where your business requirements lie. And in some cases, it may be a minor feature, but it could be a stopper for the project, and that's where Mimecast comes in. So please do speak to your Software One representative or contact. My email address is there. Please do reach out if I can help, but back to you, Ben.
Thank you, Julian, or Jules, I should say. Sorry about that. I appreciate it. And what I want to add to this, and I'm going to be quick because I know we're coming up on time, but what I want to add to this is I do have a lot of friends that are CIOs that have deployed Mimecast and Office 365 and several other products, of course. But I have heard that Mimecast was the best decision in their enterprise that they've made. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that this existed and that it is a approach that you can take to not only ensure availability to your email environment as you move to the cloud, but to just have a warm fuzzy to know that even if you have some hiccups with either your on-premise Exchange environment or Office 365, then Mimecast will enable your users to continue their work, which is the most important component. So thanks, Jules.
Thank you.
So moving on pretty quickly, and I want to get to the questions. SharePoint Online, again, Plan 1 and Plan 2, we've got the standard and enterprise features. Anytime you just do a SharePoint Online subscription by itself, you get the OneDrive for Business. Can you do everything online that you can do on-premise? Today, the answer is still no. So if I look at the grid between functionality of online or SharePoint on-premise, there's still some things missing on the online side of it. However, what I will say is that the amount of development that's going on at Microsoft for the SharePoint Online components is huge, and they're adding a ton of functionality every quarter. So the Power BI that we mentioned earlier, that wasn't there when we first started doing Office 365. But it's beautiful now. So if you ever had a BI department or you've ever done reporting or dynamic reporting for your end users, the Power BI for online is just intense. They're doing that with all the SharePoint and stuff as well. So the answer is still no, but I guarantee if you do a business requirement analysis of your features that you need to use with whatever project you're going to use SharePoint for, I guarantee that the online version of it probably will be successful in deploying that solution. Moving on, Link Online. The cool thing about Link Online is that Plan 2 comes with the E1 and E2. So you see I highlighted it here. You can get Link Online Plan 2 or Plan 1 and use it for some users. You can buy it a la carte. But any of the bundles that you get of Office 365 will have the Plan 2 component in it. The on-premise interoperability. So if I was discussing with a customer about, I want to do some things on-premise and some in the cloud, you have the ability to do that. The Link server can connect to the cloud environment and be fully aware. And the reason why we typically have that discussion is because of the E4 offer. We haven't mentioned it a lot, but the main difference between E3 and E4 is the ability to do voice. So to use your Link client as your phone. As a matter of fact, I'm speaking to you through my Link client, actually loaded on a home PC, so which I'm fully licensed for. So you have the ability to actually call out with the E4 plan, entitlements at least, to use Link as a phone. When I am looking at replacing my voice solution and going with Office 365 E4, a couple of things I need to consider. So until now, or up until this point, with Microsoft's infrastructure, you were required to load a local Link server to terminate your PSTN. You also have the option to hire that out for a hosting service. We have a really good partner in Global Genesis that provides that link, that they will provide your Link tenant in their environment and connect it to your Office 365 tenant. They also have the ability to give you those local phone numbers wherever you go. So, there are so many options here to do an Office 365 deployment with with using your Link as your voice. And we're certainly able to help you not just discover your business requirements and figure out which solution's best for you, but help you identify how to get there and even help you deploy it. We also have the Yammer and Project Online. So Project Online, we all purchase in small packages, right? It's 5 to 10 users. Our PMO has it, and so it's still one of those smaller products, but it is very, very powerful. And the best part about it is it's so integrated in the rest of the productivity suite that it makes life so much easier when you're sharing documents and you're assigning resources directly out of AD. It really has been a product that stands above the rest because of the integration between all the other products. And then Yammer is something that is being adopted very slowly because of the cultural aspects to it. I tease a lot of our customers and my coworkers about what's the toughest thing to get a developer to do. It's to document his work. Well, Yammer is the idea that we're going to move all of our corporate knowledge into a central location that is searchable and archivable and backupable and make it usable, right? So knowledge is actually corporate data that is actionable. So it's knowledge management, it's a social approach to it, and it's starting to catch on. The biggest challenge to that is the cultural aspects, but you can play with Yammer now at home and open an account privately for free. They also have the enterprise features, and that allows you to have an administrator of your environment. This license entitlement document I wanted to put up here because it shows that when you move let's say you're going from your perpetual licensing of Office to the cloud, there's some maneuvering that you have to do license-wise to prevent you from double buying features. A lot of the stuff is in the core CAL or the enterprise CAL. When you move to Office 365, you're also gaining the additional right to use on-premise technology. So therefore, you do not need a core CAL or some of the components of the core CAL because you're getting that entitlement from your Office 365 subscription. The answer to that is the core cal or the ecal bridge. And what those really are the pieces in the core cal and the ecal that do not exist in Office 365. So your Windows Server cal license, your System Center, your endpoint protection, the System Center client management suites and the ecal suite. That it gives you the ability to still have a bundle for those and the pricing for those, but not have a situation where you're buying the licenses twice. So how can we help? What are the next steps? After you've gone through this, what these technologies do and how you want to use them internally, first of all, we definitely can help you identify if Office 365 fits within your organization. That, it's usually the first step with customers who are coming at it and never even considered it before. And a lot of these solutions also have funding behind them that we can submit and apply for from Microsoft, and a lot of it's being approved today. So this is a good time because they just refilled those buckets, if any of you know how the Microsoft buckets work. So we can fund a project to where we come on site and actually show you what Office 365 is, let you play with it. We can create a tenant for you to actually use for 90 days and play with, and it's got 25 users that are already created with all the technologies already set up. Really explore it. It's an exploration of Office 365 that lets you get your hands on and identify how you do business and associate it with the features within Office 365. We also have the ability to help you migrate your workload. So whether you want to move Exchange today, Link tomorrow, and SharePoint, a year or two from now, or just do Exchange and leave the others all on premise, we'll show you how to do that, and we can come in and help you do that. Likewise, deploying Mimecast for both on-premise Exchange and Office 365. We're a very close partner with them, and our technical guys are up to snuff on those deployments as well. We have a lot of fun with that product because it is such a good product. It meets all the compliancy needs and audit needs, and it's just a great product. Migrating one or many of your Office workloads, again, we have the staff to come out and do that on a statement of work and help find the funding that might be available. As we go through the exploration or the idea that is moving your Office 365 to the cloud, I stress to my customers, you have to have that warm fuzzy. Doing some of these projects or doing some of these discovery sessions does create that warm fuzzy. It is an emotional discussion because if you're HIPAA compliant and you have a chief security officer, that chief security officer can get in a lot of trouble personally if there's a HIPAA breach. So you definitely have to understand how Office 365 works to not only keep yourself secure, but to know that it is a viable option, a cost-beneficial option as well. And I hate saying this because I used to do technology only to make lives easier, which is not really the reason, but it will make your admins and your business users' life easier. So, when we consider that, there's a lot of stuff in there that you have to think about. So during the questions and the Q&A, I'm going to go through this. I know we're over time, so I apologize, and I really appreciate everybody hanging in there with me. What I want to start out with is if I have Office 2013 with software assurance on an open value account with 2 years remaining and want Office 365, do I have to honor the Office 2013 contract, or does Microsoft have a way for us to convert the open value account to Office 365? I had a boss, one of my best bosses, that used to tell me if there's more than $100 involved, it's going to be negotiable. Yes, the answer is yes. You have a way to move you from your contract where you have Office 2013 on it and into Office 365. Microsoft's very motivated to getting you into the cloud environment, the subscription-based licensing model. And so they definitely have several levers that you can pull to do that. When you consider that, I would recommend, of course, Software One, calling us, and we will walk you through that process and help you understand, what it is we need to do, what paperwork needs to be completed, and then what the programmatic process is to get you into that cloud environment. And there's a couple of things you need to consider. There's ways to do that where you can keep your entitlement to your perpetual license and use the Office 365 environment, or, and these are all different costs, of course, but you can also move from the perpetual, give up the perpetual license, and just go straight Office 365. And you can do the migrations. There's no hard cutover dates, but there's just different processes that are available for that, and we can help you identify which one will fit best with you. The next question, does Office 365 offer any way to manage confidential email? So, yeah, there's a couple things. Let's see. Encryption of a service that detects a word. It requires the receiver to access a third-party site. Yeah, so our standard approach as IT folks to secure an email, we've got all these options. You've got the encryption appliance that sends out the email and allows you to come in and authenticate to get that email through secure channels. You've got other mechanisms that help you identify the data loss protection, or are you about to send out a Social Security or a credit card? The Social Security, the DLP features are built into the E3 environment, so yes, that's already there. Microsoft has another product that does the email encryption. It is a bolt-on. And then you also have the third-party approach, the Mimecast approach. So the answer to this question is yes for all of it. Some of it might require an additional, although small, investment per user, but all of that exists today. Moving on to the next question, is Azure AD Tenant subscription required when deploying Office 365 with ADFS 3.0? No, it is not. So I can do a straight Office 365 deployment and not use Azure ever. If I want the high availability for the connection for ADFS, I would require a secondary data center or a secondary connection to the internet to accommodate that single point of failure, and that's easy to do. So the answer to that is no, you don't have to do the Azure AD Tenant. Office 365 comes with the AD Basic, which is an AD infrastructure within Office 365, which is what your on Microsoft.com credentials live in. And so that comes part of Office 365. Azure AD gives you additional functionality. So it gives you the identity management functionality. So I hope that answered that question. Does the cost factor outweigh the potential security issues? So when I consider my investment and how much work I'm going to have to do, the total cost of ownership to keep this environment secure, what I will tell you from experience is that Microsoft has done a ton of this work for you. They've done it in such a way that not only do I have all of these mechanisms that I can use to keep this environment secure, but I also have a way to report on them and to pass audits and to make sure that not only are we doing it, but we're doing it well, and and we can actually show where we have done it. Right? That's the nature of an audit. I've mentioned this already today, but I tell a lot of my friends in this company, none of the IT folks like to mess with the audit guys. The audit folks might be nice, and I met a nice one on a plane once. I didn't actually have to work with her, but we don't want to interact with the audit folks. So having a way to produce that audit report and give it to them and say, go away, I don't want to talk to you anymore, is very important to me as a chief architect. So do I have the mechanisms to make the cost benefit of going to the cloud still stay relevant, or is the security mechanisms that I need to build up around the cloud to continue to keep it safe, is that going to just throw my costs out the window? And the answer is no. Microsoft's done a great job of providing that security infrastructure and providing those audit mechanisms, so that not only And I would go farther to say that not only is it really secure, but it's probably going to be more secure than even the data centers that I've run before, or the data centers that we're all working in. So the answer to that, I would say, is the cost does not outweigh the security issues. Where can I get more information on the link phone option? Obviously, you can call your SoftwareOne rep. We will connect you with some technical resources like myself who can have that conversation. We also have, just like with Mimecast you saw today, we also have partners that provide that linked phone component. So whether you're talking about just your handset on your desk, or you're talking about the infrastructure in your own data center or in somebody else's data center, we've got all of those people that we're hanging out with all the time. It's, it's like one big happy family. So give your SoftwareOne rep a call and tell them I need to talk to somebody about the linked phone option, and we'll gather the resources and come see you. So I've heard some talk about Office 365 in the cloud is more difficult to integrate with Active Directory. The enterprise had single sign-on with on-premise Exchange 2010, and with 365 it was lost. Also, would there be a tool to manage licenses and accounts other than the online version? With Exchange, there are separate Windows-based tools that allow this type of administration. So, right, the ability to administrate the online components, the online features and the licenses associated with them is getting better. There are also third-party tools that allow you to not only manage your environment but monitor it as well. I believe Exoprise is one of the ones that come to mind right now. But the other component here in this question that I wanted to address is the single sign-on with on-premise Exchange 2010, and then with the 365 it was lost. In those situations, what we're seeing is the integration between the older technology and Office 365. It's there because most of us are still on older technology stacks like the Exchange 2010. However, the feature sets are not as rich, if you will. When I have situations like whatever, the features I need to administrate, or the features I need to secure my email, or the features that I need to connect my Outlook client, let's say Outlook 2010 to Office 365. That is supported, but as you can imagine, just like with an Outlook 2010 client connecting to an Exchange 2013 server, there were things that didn't happen on the 2010 Outlook. The funny one to me was the colored calendaring. That I actually had a business case to move a user to an Exchange, a newer Exchange server, because they needed colors on the calendar. That's the kind of things that you have to consider when you still have older infrastructure and you're connecting it to the new cloud infrastructure. So yes, there are tools that you can use to manage your identities, and we talked about that, to manage your licensing and to manage the availability of your cloud environment. If you talk to a publisher like Microsoft, they're going to tell you, you need to upgrade to get over some of these problems. ADFS itself is getting better. The 3.0 has a lot of cool stuff in it. And then you have the third-party approach with identity management like a Centrify. So if you would like to discuss this, please call your rep, and they'll get us on the phone, and we can go through some of the fears that you have with this and talk to you about some of the ways we've overcome it with our customers in the past. Great question, though. I really appreciate it. We've been interested in Azure AD Premium, but have not been able to get a cost estimate for the what the service would cost. Is something that SoftwareOne could assist us with? Absolutely. We actually have. I got to say this politically correct. We've got some guys that we got from Microsoft that now work for SoftwareOne that have a ton of experience with Azure, and in the portfolio that they provide is the ability for us to come in and help you identify the cost of moving to Azure, whether it's just AD Premium or a full Azure tenant or any of the other Azure services. So absolutely, we have the ability to provide that service. Just give us a call. We'll come out and assess your business requirements. That's a big thing is pushing. I'm constantly pushing customers back because they, just like our end users do, and everybody here knows what this is like. Your end users come to you and say, go deploy the system, I need it. Well, wait, what is it actually trying to do? We try to do that with our customers as well. We find that it helps save you guys money by us understanding what your business needs are, because we can provide those solutions only what it is you need. And so give us a call. We'll come out. We'll talk to you about what you need to accomplish with a third party or a Microsoft solution, a cloud solution. And then we have tools to create that cost estimate of what it's going to cost you moving forward and what adding users or adding services would do to that cost. We also have the ability to help monitor that cost after you've purchased. So when you go out and deploy, Azure AD Premium, every month or every year you're going to get the bill for what you've used. We have solutions that can monitor your spend rate, your burn rate, and report on that on a daily, monthly, real-time basis. So absolutely, we can help you with that. Give us a call, and we'll get those resources out to you. And that was the last question that I have here. I really appreciate all the attendees that came in. I hope this was beneficial. If you'd like to continue this discussion, please let me know or let your software rep know, Software One rep know, and we will come out and see you and talk to you more about this. So with that, I would like to end this presentation. And again, thanks everybody. This has been Marshall, and thanks for joining us at Software One.